I'm absolutely honored to have won the DataSnipper Hero of the Year award, and I definitely could not have done this on my own. I have to give a special thanks to my firm, KPMG, for having such a strong and supportive culture around technology and innovation. On top of that, I could not have done it without the support of the people that I've worked with, both those in the technology network and my extremely supportive coworkers. That being said, I've been using DataSnipper at this point for the better part of 2 years. While I've done incredible things with DataSnipper and have saved tons and tons of time, all of this almost actually never happened. And I'd like to share that story with all of you. The first time I saw DataSnipper in action was about 2 years ago at what was called the New Hire Tech Day at KPMG. It was essentially a day-long technology boot camp of presentation after presentation and tons of PowerPoints. Myself and all the other first years associates were in attendance and were shown various different technologies that we could use to assist us in our audit and make it more efficient. Now, for those of you who have ever been through an extremely long day like that, filled with presentations and PowerPoints, you probably understand that when I say that as you're approaching the end of the day, you start to get really tired, and it's very, very easy to lose focus on what's being presented. On top of that, they were doing a fun happy hour event at a nearby venue after the day was over, so as the day was coming to the end, everybody was already starting to really mentally check out. We run about hour 7 of 8 of New Hire Tech Day, and this girl walks up and starts presenting. She starts talking, goes on with the presentation, and says, "See, you can even match up a bunch of samples quickly to your support." And then she clicks a button, and all the samples match up instantly with the audit support that she had. I completely snap out of it, and I start looking at this in disbelief. This tool had just accomplished in basically one click what normally would have taken hours to do manually. I start looking around to see if there's anyone else who recognized what just happened, and everybody's calm and not really reacting. I asked the person next to me, "Did you just see that?" And they responded with, "So what?" So now I was inadvertently being gaslit and started doubting what I just saw because nobody else was reacting at all. That really happened, by the way, I promise you. And I almost didn't follow up to investigate further because I thought that I had made a mistake in what I saw. So I missed the name of the tool, but I wrote down a note to myself to ask the presenter and see what the heck that just was. As the day finally came to a close, I ran up to the person who did the presentation, asked her what the name of that tool was, and she responded, DataSnipper. And so it all began. I made a note of the tool's name and in my phone, and a few days later, I started looking more into it. I was able to access the learning videos for the tool and began practicing with it. As this tool was absolutely hot off the presses, brand new, the first few hours were a slog. I had nobody to reach out to or ask for assistance because nobody else knew how to use the tool. As a result, I had to resort to good old-fashioned trial and error. And I remember this day very clearly because I remember saying to myself, what freaking nerd spends 4 hours on a Thursday night doing something like this? Out of all the things I could be doing, I'm here watching training videos and playing around with invoices. After a few hours, and admittedly, multiple profanities later, I finally started to get the hang and felt decently confident. However, I was still having some trouble getting some stuff to work. Luckily, a buddy of mine, Sal, was an absolute guru when it came to almost all things technology. He showed me a few tech tricks, and that finally solved those last few pieces of the puzzle that I was struggling with. A few weeks later, I felt confident enough in my abilities with the tool to show a member of my engagement team. And I got a pretty good response, and I got pretty good feedback from them. I then asked our engagement manager if I could put some time on our team's calendar to do a quick 20-minute demo of the tool. The day arrives, I do the presentation, and there were only about 6 of us, and I knew everybody, so it was fairly low stakes. And one of the seniors after that presentation actually messaged me and asked me to send her my presentation materials because she wanted to show DataSnipper to one of her friends. And I was like, absolutely, of course, awesome. And it was my first real sign of success showing to other people and my confidence got boosted a bit. My manager then messaged me about a day after that, and asked me, hey, can DataSnipper look through this document and find these numbers? And I'm like, yeah, it can. Here, look. I configured DataSnipper, I set up document matching, and bam, rips through the entire document, finds the exact numbers that he's looking for, and spits them out. And I swear to you, I remember this clear as day, my manager's eyeball started twitching. Now, I was feeling a bit more confident. I decided to reach out to KPMG's tech network to tell them about DataSnipper and how I've been using it, and if they would be interested in me presenting it. I showed them how I was using it, they seemed interested, and they invited me onto the program called Tech Talks to do a demonstration. So I start building my presentation. A month or so passes, and finally the day arrives for me to present on DataSnipper. Now, in my mind, I had thought that there were only going to be maybe 10 or 20 people attending this thing. Previously, I had only presented to about 6 people, and I knew all of them. They were on my engagement team, so it was really low stakes. Without exaggeration, there were almost 400 people in this Microsoft Teams meeting. There were partners, managing directors, senior managers, seniors, basically everybody all up and down the firm's hierarchy. Now, mind you, at this point in my career, at that point, I'm still a first year. I'm still just getting the hang of what's even going on with auditing. I'm still in the absolute baby steps of my career, and now I'm over here about to do a presentation for people who have been doing this for years and even decades. And I'm sitting here like, oh dear God, I really hope this works out. So my heart starts pounding, and I start the presentation. This clicker is just not working with me today, is it? I go through the text snip, the validation snip, the exception snip, sum snip, table snip, and start wrapping it all up with document matching and the others. Now, to put this in perspective, so you can kind of relive this experience with me, there were 400 people watching me do this. And many of these people had been auditing before since I was even born. Also, everybody's cameras are off, so I have zero feedback at all as to whether people are even receptive to what I'm presenting. So as I start approaching the end of the presentation, I started to get really nervous. At the end, there was going to be a Q&A. And my biggest fear, and I'm pretty sure that many of you have seen this with other presentations, is that I would ask at the end, does anybody have any questions? And then get that really awkward, 10 seconds of silence is really painful. That was my biggest fear. And if I can get just one question, just one, I'd be happy. If I got 2, I'd be delighted, because it would at least show me that there were some people who were interested in what I was presenting. So I start wrapping up the presentation, I finish, and I ask, does anybody have any questions? And the chat room exploded. It exploded with 30 or 40 questions, and they just kept on coming in. There were so many questions and so much interest that we literally ran out of time in the Q&A. The presentation went so well that I literally had partners from across the country messaging me, asking me to upskill their engagement teams. All this while I was still brand new to the firm, 5 months in at the time. It was insane. From here on out, I was confident in both the tool and my ability to explain the value it provided inside and out. I became the go-to expert in our business unit, and I continued to do presentations on it afterwards. And then, the icing on the cake. Upon entering my second year with the firm, I was asked now to do the DataSnipper presentation this year for the new hires at the New Hire Tech Day. That same New Hire Tech Day where everybody last year was mentally checked out. This time, though, I had custom built the presentation. I created a custom guide to show them exactly how to get around all those pain points that I struggled with for so long at the beginning of my journey with the tool. I showed them exactly how the tool can benefit them, and there was so much interest, and it was so well received that once again, we ran out of time during the Q&A section. And that, everybody, is the story of the hero of DataSnipper. Thank you all.